Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching the Newstrack. I'm Rahul Kanwal. A 23-hour, 370-kilometer long journey later, Sasikala has entered Chennai and she is threatening to disrupt Tamil Nadu politics right ahead of the big state assembly elections. Can Amma once again take charge of the AIADMK? Is that at all within the realm of possibility? And what impact will she have in the state right ahead of the assembly elections? That's my big focus on the Newstrack.
Heroes welcome for Chinnamma. She's back to reclaim the Amma legacy. Sasikala makes political intent totally clear. Can she wrest Amma's empire? Will Sasikala's Gambit pay off? The top focus on Newstrack.
There were thousands of supporters flanking her convoy as it made its way from Bengaluru to Chennai. Sasikala now back in the capital of Tamil Nadu. She wants to reclaim Jayalalitha's legacy and she claims that hers is the real AIADMK. Her presence is causing quite a flutter in Tamil Nadu politics. How many MLAs and ministers may jump and join her? Will they? Or will they wait to see what happens in the state assembly elections? Or will it be too late after that? Tamil Nadu politics is abuzz with a million questions and several mysteries. But the one thing is, Chinnamma is back and she's here to reclaim Jayalalitha's legacy.
A swagatam that Sasikala herself couldn't have dreamt of. An epic 20-hour journey home, punctuated by swarms of supporters crowding around her convoy. Sasikala herself sat with a smile, a respectful namaskaram for the thousands in whose hands her political future may lie. The usually circumspect Sasikala even breaking her silence with this declaration.
கொன்ற கொள்கைக்கு நான் அடிமை. இந்த தொண்டர்களுக்கும் தமிழக மக்களுக்கும் நான் அடிமை. ஆனால் அடக்குமுறைக்கு நான் என்றும் அணிபடிய மாட்டேன். நிச்சயமாக தொண்டர்களுக்காக
At place after place, point after point, Sasikala was practically geared by supporters looking for a darshan. Of the one woman who still holds that emotional connect to Amma, former Chief Minister Jayalalithaa. After 4 years in jail following Jayalalitha's death, Sasikala will be looking to draw strength from these crowds to win the legacy war over her mentor. Chinnamma's politics needed no words on Monday night because the pictures were practically screaming. At her final stop before Chennai in Vellore, close to midnight on Monday, the crowd went into a frenzy.
There are the party cadres, party supporters who are standing on the roadside trying to greet Sasikala, who is on her way back. Then there is no real way she can go ahead without accepting their greetings. And that is exactly what we see over here. There is a huge cavalcade of vehicles. There are at least some 20 to 30 vehicles in this whole cavalcade.
Finally entering Chennai only at 4:30 a.m., a stunning 20 hours after her convoy left Bengaluru, she made straight for MJR's residence to cement the super symbolism after a day of undeniable muscle flexing. Sasikala's namaskarams to the patriarch of the AIADMK wasn't unexpected, but stood hugely amplified by the fact that the AIADMK government had closed down the Amma Memorial on Marina Beach, ostensibly to deny Sasikala another viral photo opportunity.
Sasikala is walking up the ramp and she's going to lay garland to the statue. Earlier also she said that she will she will enter active politics, and perhaps this is how she wants to show that she is entering active politics.
Finally, Sasikala retired to the home of her niece, Dr. Krishnapriya, where she will remain for the next few days. She has already promised a full-fledged political rebirth, but the specifics of her next steps remain the most tantalizing question now in poll-bound Tamil Nadu. And with the sheer numbers surrounding her homecoming, she's already given her rivals much to chew on. With Gopi Krishnan Unithan, Pramod Madhav and Nolan Pinto on the highway to Chennai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Sasikala has returned and she's back with a bang. What impact will Chinnamma's return have on the forthcoming Tamil Nadu Assembly elections? Joining me for perspective, I have with me on this broadcast C. Rajshekharan. He's an advocate and founder of The Voice for Tamil Nadu. We have Kishore Swamy, he's a political analyst, tends to lean towards the AIADMK. And three very fine journalists. I want to welcome first Priyamvada, our consulting editor. We have T.M. Veeraraghav. He's working very closely with our teams for the Tamil Nadu elections, as is T.S. Sudhir. So welcome to all our guests. I want to go across to C. Rajshekharan first, because I was quite astounded to see the kind of support that Sasikala was able to draw as her cavalcade entered Tamil Nadu. Did you expect these numbers of people to come out in the streets welcoming her? How is this, in your view, being perceived in Tamil Nadu politics at this time? Is this along expected lines, or is this way beyond what anyone could have expected? C. Rajshekharan.
Rahul, definitely not. I thought that there would be some crowd being organized by TTV Dinagaran, who runs his own party, AIADMK, and definitely few people from the Delta region where Mrs. Sasikala Nadarajan hails, and the vote share of her Mukkulathur vote base, which is the prominent in southern Tamil Nadu and central Tamil Nadu. But this stretch from Bengaluru via Krishnagiri, Hosur, Dharmaburi, Ambur, Vaniyambadi, Vellore, Valaja, Sriperumbudur, Tiruvallur, and Chennai. This is known as northern part of Tamil Nadu, where my native is from Vellore district. Vellore means it was a unified Vellore that comes under Tiruvannamalai, Kanjipuram, Vellore, Arakkonam, all this. And all my relatives are widespread. That I've got first-hand information. That's why I'm trying to emphasize one point. I am stunned. I am literally stunned to understand how come the people of Vellore, Salem, Dharmaburi, Tirupattur came to support or to watch or to see Mrs. Sasikala, who is coming out of the prison after 4 years of conviction in the case where Ms. Jayalalithaa was convict 1, and her relatives, our C.N. Sudhakaran, her nephew Sudhakaran. This is definitely an unbelievable development in the northern Tamil Nadu. Whatever may be, if some may say Sasikala haters, Sasikala abusers, and people who don't like Sasikala for so many other reasons, unknown reasons and known reasons. Because she was with Madam Jayalalithaa for 33 years, and there is a perception and there is an opinion among few people that she did not allow one section of the people to enter Poyas Garden or get any benefit from Jayalalithaa and all. All this were in the public domain. But the fact of the matter is, I never expected, since it is my hometown and this northern Tamil Nadu, I've got my own connections. So I verified, I cross-checked. Not only the party members, the common public, and the others, the youngsters, I could see this kind of development after MGR, Jayalalithaa, and now it is Sasikala. I mean, I really don't understand. I'm quizzing. I'm really confused to understand how this is possible. There may be so many innuendos and insinuations for the reasons by the people who don't want Sasikala, don't like Sasikala. But my point is, whether you like her or not, she has literally 24 hours travel from Bengaluru to Chennai. without getting down from the vehicle. I mean, I'm reiterating, a woman of that age, how can she travel? If we travel from Chennai to Bengaluru, we get down at 4-5 places, and it is a back pain and so many other reasons for a normal man, normal woman. But 66-year-old lady with so much of stress in her mind, coming out of the prison, can manage a continuous travel from Bengaluru to Chennai. It's astonishing, unbelievable. Of course, that is the truth. We have to accept it.
Okay. So, I want to understand from the other participants how much of this is hyperbole, how much of it is reality, because you're saying that not since MGR or Jayalalithaa have you seen so much of a crowd connect. Kishore Swami, to you first, how much of a flutter has this created in the AIADMK rank and file? Because here is Sasikala, now out of jail, claiming to be the true inheritor of Jayalalitha's legacy. She was most certainly far closer to her than EPS or OPS or anybody else who's now running the AIADMK, and she wants people to believe that she is the real new Amma.
See, let us clarify on certain aspects. See, with 33 years, almost 33 years of political influence, because whether they were in power or they were not in power, they were wielding enough influence. So with that kind of
legacy and that kind of background, it is not surprising that she was able to create the kind of euphoria that she did when she arrived in Tamil Nadu. But are we going to really say that this is going to reflect at the ground level when compared to a huge party like AIADMK, where the organizational machinery matters? I doubt it. Now, I am not trying to underestimate the kind of influence that she can wield, as I said, because of the political legacy that she has. But is that enough to create a kind of an impact on the AIADMK? I doubt it, at least not up until the elections.
Okay, so we've heard two contrarian perspectives on the significance of her return. I want to go across to three non-partisan dispassionate observers. I'll start with T.M. Veeraraghav for his perspective on whether the crowds that we saw were along expected lines, or do you also think they were unprecedented? Are they likely to show up again? And what impact do you think her return may have on Tamil Nadu politics? T.M. Veeraraghav.
Crowds can be deceptive in politics. We leave that aside. But having said that, the power with which she has reasserted herself, the fact that she wants to send out such a strong message that she is back in the game in Tamil Nadu and going through that kind of a rally sends out a message that her intentions are not to let go. We've spoken about the kind of cases that she faces, the fact that she cannot contest an election now for the next 6 years until 2027, irrespective of whether she wants to come into politics or not. Despite these facts, she's sending out a message that she's up there, she's in the realm, and she's out there. She's not going to let go of a challenge to the Two Leaves legacy. Having said that, we'll have to see how this plays out. Is she willing to make some kind of a bargain with the present AIADMK leadership? Are they willing to make some kind of bargain to keep everything together? Because otherwise, she is definitely going to be a spoil sport. She has the ability within the party as well as amongst the cadre to take away a sizable chunk, even in terms of leadership. There are leaders, there are ministers who are loyal to Sasikala, whether it is caste, whether it is, because of the fact that she was closely involved in the process of picking them and nurturing them over many years under Jayalalitha's leadership. So she does have a say within the party. Now, how much is she going to push this AIADMK to the brink is the question before election. For a Sasikala, in my view, a defeated AIADMK is easier to take charge of in terms of a party, because if the AIADMK wins an election, then EPS and OPS faction will have an edge, given the fact that they would have fought anti-incumbency. But having said that, the outlook doesn't seem really great for the AIADMK. I would keenly observe how Sasikala makes, her next moves, whether she wants to strike some kind of a deal with the party where she's acceptable. Also, I'd like to see how the central government deals with Sasikala in terms of the various cases that are left behind for her. Rahul, I think those will determine the road ahead for the AIADMK and for Sasikala in Tamil Nadu politics.
So, Sudhir, can I get you to build on some of the points that T.M. Raghav just raised? Do you think she's more likely to strike a deal with the AIADMK? Do you think she's likely to show the AIADMK how much she can damage them in this assembly election? And what, according to you, is the mood amongst the current leadership in the AIADMK when it comes to how do they deal with the fact that Amma is now back and she means business?
Well, Rahul, like with most things in Tamil Nadu, this also was rather filmy, the 23-hour-long drive from Bengaluru to Chennai. There is a film of Rajinikanth called Kabali, which I think released sometime in 2017, in which Rajinikanth says, "Tirumbi vanduten sollu," meaning to say that, tell them that I have come back. Sasikala could have well-mouthed Rajinikanth's dialogue from Kabali, tell them that she has come back, and the optics, the very fact that every Tamil channel, most national channels are also covering the Sasikala return live during their bulletin showed the kind of importance that Sasikala has now in Tamil Nadu politics. Also, with regard to the fact that elections just about 2 to 3 months away. I personally think she will have a short-term strategy. She will have a long-term strategy. The short-term strategy will be to create turbulence in the AIADMK camp. And I think she has been already successful to an extent as far as that is concerned, given the fact that we saw 3 senior ministers going to the DGP's office and complaining for the use of the AIADMK flag by Sasikala on the vehicle. This is a political battle that the AIADMK has to fight, not fight it as a legal battle. So in that sense, the AIADMK seems to be getting its political strategy a bit wrong there. The long-term strategy would be to wait, as Raghav said, for the assembly election results to come and see how the AIADMK fares, and then move in for the kill, then try to take charge. I'm not too sure whether at this point in time she would want to actively campaign for Dinakaran's party AIADMK, given the fact that it doesn't seem to have a mass base. And if the Dinakaran's party does not fare too well in the elections, the blame will be laid at Sasikala's door. So I'm not too sure whether she would want to take that risk. Responding to your question as to what would be the mood within the AIADMK vis-a-vis Sasikala, again in 2016, she was the force behind the AIADMK Jayalalitha's decision to award tickets to 234 odd candidates, or whatever many candidates who fought on the AIADMK symbol. So in that sense, she has a connect with most of the MLAs and the candidates who contested in that election. So she knows the DNA of the AIADMK inside out, and she will have a personal rapport and connection also with many of those people. So all that will come into play most likely in the run-up in the next 2-3 months, and definitely after the election results in May.
Priyambada, your best sense of how many ministers and MLAs within the AIADMK owe their allegiance to Sasikala? How many may be willing to do her bidding, whether it is within the AIADMK or for the AMMK, and how many are strongly aligned with the EPS-OPS faction? And between EPS and OPS, we know that things are never perfectly well, and therefore will OPS now try and use the Sasikala card to pin EPS down, or will they come together as one against a common enemy?
Rahul, I can just recall the incident right after the demise of Jayalalithaa, when Sasikala, literally we saw those photo shoots happening. She was dressed up like Jayalalithaa, and there was a queue, literally a queue of industrialists, all the senior leaders, political leaders, politicians even from the other parties who had come to take her blessings, quote unquote. So that is the kind of power she wielded, not just amongst the AIADMK, but also amongst the businessmen and in the social circle, movie circle. So she has got her connections intact. So that is something very crucial for any politician, and that's the reason why TTV was able to mobilize such a huge crowd yesterday. Quite unimaginable to see from in that entire stretch of 450-500 kilometers crowd standing, and that cannot happen with the connections, and that cannot happen without the organizing skills of TTV Dinakaran and of course the other members in Sasikala's family. That's always been the strength of that family. Let's accept that. And as far as EPS and OPS are concerned, I think that's going to be the crucial point here, because EPS and OPS have not been seeing eye to eye except for appearing for for any public event. And we also saw how OPS's second son had sent out a message on Facebook for the speedy recovery. It's not just things are not fine between EPS and OPS. Things are not fine between inside even within even OPS's family, because one son is an MP and other son, sources tell me, did not get an MLA seat and he's angry. So I think that's where the game is going to start. Anyone who is not going to be getting a seat here, the ministers who are not probably getting the constituencies they want for themselves or for the relatives, are likely to jump to Sasikala. And for Sasikala, the game would be only after the elections. But now I think she's going to be legally trying to take that case, because there is a Madras High Court case pending, and she would like to revive that, and she would like to fight it out legally and keep giving pressure to the AIADMK government. But another drama that's going to unfold before us is going to be on 24th of this month, when Jayalalitha's birth anniversary is going to happen. So we have to wait and see if Sasikala, if the memorial has to be opened by then, because it's birth anniversary. So the government will be forced to open the memorial and the AIADMK party office. We'll have to wait and see if the chief minister will have a big celebration on his own way. And we'll also see that Sasikala will make use of that opportunity to go and pay respect to her late friend. But having said all this, we also have to accept the fact that EPS, on his own strength, has created an image for himself. He is a noted politician with whatever may be the history. Every politician has a background or history. But he's one politician who's made a name for himself. And imagine this farm loan waiver in the assembly session, and he's just now said in next 15 days, all the farmers will be given the receipt of the loan that is being waived. And the intensive campaigning that he's been doing from constituency to constituency, moving from place to place, and doling out all the freebies for people. So that's also going to have an impact.
So I want to show our viewers this report about what are the options before Sasikala in the short term. Will she try and claim the AIADMK as her own party? Will she prefer to campaign for her nephew Dinakaran's party and run the risk of being a fringe player in the Tamil Nadu elections? Will she wait it out? Will she try and resolve her legal battles first? Take a look at this report filed by our Tamil Nadu Bureau on the options before Chinnamma.
Hailed as Chinnamma or Junior Amma, VK Sasikala was always the power behind the throne, the operator behind the iron curtains at Veda Nilayam in Poor's Garden. After Jayalalithaa passed away in December 2016, the Supreme Court convicted her in the disproportionate assets case. Sasikala was painted as the villain, the evil influence over an innocent Purachi Thalaivi by her detractors. Sasikala had virtually controlled the AIADMK and had its leaders falling at her feet in a post-Jaya order. But once she was behind bars at Bengaluru Central Prison, she was stripped off her post in the party and expelled. After serving her jail term, Sasikala is out now. A free woman. The optics of her leaving the hospital were significant. She travelled in an SUV that belonged to one of the AIADMK members. The Toyota Land Cruiser was not merely a vehicle, it was a message. To top it, the AIADMK flag on the vehicle was unmissable and deliberate. If pictures could speak, they spoke 1,000 words. In a sense, these pictures took off from February 2017, when Sasikala travelled by road from Chennai to Bengaluru to surrender at the central prison. Before she left, she had visited Jaya's final resting place at the Marina Beach. Back then, in a dramatic gesture, she had thumped 3 times on the Samadhi with her open palm. It was interpreted as taking a vow. But the visual imagery apart, is there another reason for those in charge of the AIADMK to worry about the return of Sasikala? Even before Sasikala stepped out, EPS made it clear that the AIADMK doors were shut for her.
Sasikala வெளியே வர பட்சத்துல அதிமுக விட இணையறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு ஒண்ணும் வாய்ப்பே கிடையாது. அவர்கள் கட்சியிலே இல்ல. சார் இந்த 7 பேர் அதிமுக கட்சியிலே கிடையாது.
But EPS, who calls his administration Amma's government, knows that sooner than later Sasikala will stake claim to the inheritance of Jaya's political legacy. As it is clear, he is already watching over his shoulder, which is perhaps why the Chief Minister strategically chose 27 January, the official date of Sasikala's release from prison, to throw open Jayalalitha's Samadhi at the Marina to the public. But is Sasikala likely to make her move on the Tamil Nadu political chessboard soon? She has 3 options before her. Option 1. Encourage unrest in the AIADMK in the run-up to the elections. Her nephew TTV Dinakaran, who heads the AMMK, has already made claims that she is still the General Secretary of the AIADMK. The second option is to campaign for the AMMK in the elections. But given that Dinakaran's support base has dwindled considerably, riding on the AMMK vehicle is not likely to help Sasikala rise like a phoenix from the ashes. The last option is to bide her time till the assembly elections get over in May 2021. If she plays a prominent role in the elections and does not taste success, it will be interpreted as Tamil Nadu giving her a clear thumbs down. If the AIADMK does not return to power, as opinion polls suggest, and that leads to a weakening of Palanisami's hold over the party, it will provide Sasikala the right opportunity to strike. With T.S. Sudhir, Bureau Report, India Today.
Sudhir, I was reading the report that you put together for India Today, and essentially the point that all of you are making is that she may want to see what happens in the election and not push for TTV's party just at this moment, because she could end up as a fringe player if she did. But just sitting outside and looking at Tamil Nadu politics from a distance, when she sees the kind of support that she was able to generate, people standing out in the dark for hours waiting for a glimpse of Chinnamma, could that then get her to reevaluate her calculations? Her original calculations while she's sitting in jail and nobody's paying attention to her may have been different, because when a Neta sees crowds, he gets pumped up much more than he'd be if he's sitting at home or sitting in a jail and then, really wondering if anybody cares about him. Do you think the response could force or initiate a recalibration of how to approach this assembly election, Sudhir?
Well, Sasikala has been a political observer. I wouldn't call her a full-time politician, but she has seen politics. She has practiced politics from behind as far as the AIADMK is concerned. So I'm pretty sure she understands the nature of these crowds. And I'm sure a lot of it also would have to do with the curiosity factor, because if crowds were really an accurate barometer of a politician's success in the political field, then Lakshmi Parathi would have been Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, so would have been Chiranjeevi. But that unfortunately did not happen. So I think much more will depend on how deftly Sasikala is able to navigate through the politics of Tamil Nadu, what kind of negotiations, if she indeed does, with the AIADMK leadership, whether the BJP in this case wants the coming together of both the Dinakaran faction and the AIADMK ruling dispensation, whether it is able to convince EPS and OPS to kind of not have such a hard position as far as Sasikala is concerned. So it will depend on a whole lot of other factors. Also the community support, because right now the Tevar leader within the AIADMK is O. Paneerselvam. But whether the Tevar community is happy with his leadership, we are not too sure. Now, Sasikala also belongs to the same community, and the real leadership, as far as the AIADMK, both within the party and also the government, is by Edappadi Palaniswamy, who is a Gounder. So there is also the Tevar versus Gounder kind of a friction, which would also play out, and what kind of an impact it has on the internal politics of the AIADMK. So a whole lot of these kind of politics will play out. Also the legacy war. Just like we saw in the late 80s, the war between Janaki Ramachandran and Jayalalithaa as to who is the real inheritor of the MGR legacy. Right now, what we are likely to witness is the fight between Sasikala and the EPS-OPS factions as to who is the real inheritor of the Jayalalithaa legacy. And the elections, given the fact that they are just 3 months away, will in that sense will also be a test of who the voters of Tamil Nadu see as the real inheritors of the Jayalalithaa legacy, whether they want to kind of put their trust in this particular AIADMK and give them a whole lot of seats in the next assembly.
Priyambada, what's your best sense of how the BJP is likely to weigh in on Sasikala's return? And the fact is that the BJP has been in dialogue with the AIADMK. They've been trying to attempt a coalition going into the assembly elections, even though AIADMK leaders very often tend to debunk that. Do you think how do you see the BJP viewing Sasikala's return and the impact this could have on the DMK as a united front right ahead of the assembly elections?
Well, if we were to believe the reports, then I think BJP does play an important role. Today, even in the press conference, TTV very indirectly pointed out that a lot of calculations are done by the person above. And he looked up and smiled and then said it's probably because of stroke of luck or some luck. So that's the word he used. But when we talk about BJP, let's understand EPS, OPS did come together. And we do know the lot of drama that unfolded. Of course, officially, nobody can accept anything, but we know what was holding this AIADMK government so long in many ways. Of course, for the last 1 year, EPS has carved a niche for himself and has outgrown a bit. But at the same time, BJP is a party which wants to be in alliance with the Dravidian party and also wants more number of seats. They're not ready to settle down for 5 seats or 10 seats. And that's the reason why when Amit Shah came, we saw AIADMK leaders running up to him and then queuing up to meet him, talk to him and negotiate, because AIADMK also knew that Sasikala's release is nearing. But beyond all this, we also know that TTV Dinakaran made 4 or 5 trips to Delhi, and sources do tell us that it was some kind of a compromise must have reached, because we know there is one more PMLA case against Sasikala for 2,000 crore rupees. So if at all the central leadership had thought that Sasikala should not come out and not be in the political fray during this crucial time, something could have happened. But that's not happening. So definitely there is a plan for the central government or the BJP leadership as far as AIADMK as a party is concerned. And like everyone said, we do not know whether the plan is about before the elections or after the elections. My guess would be after the elections, just trying to, because BJP also wants to make inroads into Tamil Nadu, and two-leaf symbol, end of the day, you have the traditional vote base. Still that 19.5% of vote base is with AIADMK after the parliament elections and the local body elections. And that might benefit the BJP to get couple of 1 or 2 seats at least. But after that, it's anybody's guess what BJP would do as far as AIADMK is concerned, because many political analysts do say that BJP wants to follow the Bihar model in Tamil Nadu. Even M.K. Stalin, when he spoke to us to India Today, he clearly mentioned that BJP wants to break AIADMK into pieces, and that might not happen. I mean, that might happen. That is what M.K. Stalin as well told us.
Okay, remember Sasikala cannot contest an election because she's been prosecuted under FERA violations. It was an ED case going back to 1996. She's served 4 years in prison and even now has a litany of legal charges to deal with before she herself can physically return to politics. I mean, she's back in a more general sense that her presence is now being felt in Tamil Nadu politics, but she can't fight for quite a while because of all the legal charges against her.
The night Jayalalithaa died, Paneerselvam, the chosen deputy to run state affairs in her absence, was sworn in as the chief minister even before her body reached Pose Garden. Since that night, Tamil Nadu politics, much like the larger-than-life Tamil Masala films, has seen all sorts of drama. At Jaya's funeral, it was Sasikala, the trusted aide, flanked by the infamous Manarguddi clan, who mourned her passing. As befitted the reactions of a first family. The Prime Minister came and consoled her. In his solace was tacit recognition of the passing of a political baton. Yet when the PM left, it was OPS who stood beside Modi, waving at the mourning crowd. It seemed to be the perfect solution. OPS to look after state affairs, while Sasikala, dubbed Chinnamma in the party, to take care of the party itself. A snug arrangement that lasted a bare 2 months. On 5th of February 2017, Paneerselvam resigned. As Sasikala fine-tuned her strategy to take over the government. She began to face difficulty in getting an appointment with the acting governor of the state to stake her claim. OPS used this time to mediate at Jaya's memorial. He claimed Amma has helped him hear his inner voice.
Amma wanted me to save the party. Centre wanted me as chief minister. I said no.
In the political battle for control of the state legislature, it was OPS versus Sasikala. Sasikala corralled more than 100 AIADMK legislators into Golden Bay, a leisure retreat, to stop them from running away to the rival camp. While all of this posturing and consolidating was taking place, there came a spanner in the works for Sasikala's political ambitions. On 14th of Feb 2017, the Supreme Court gave the go-ahead for Sasikala's conviction in the disproportionate asset case. As soon as news broke, another powerful AIADMK stalwart, Edappadi K. Palaniswamy, EPS, made his move to take control. The very next day, as Sasikala surrendered to court and made her way to jail, EPS won the floor test in the assembly and became the third AIADMK Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu in as many months. With Sasikala in jail and EPS having replaced OPS as the man in charge of AIADMK and by extension of Tamil Nadu, one would have thought that the time of turmoil was over. But then broke another storm. This again centered around Jaya and her legacy. This time, it was the by-election to the RK Nagar Assembly constituency seat that had fallen vacant because of her demise. Both factions within the AIADMK put up candidates and both laid claim to the two leaves symbol of the party, resulting in the Election Commission freezing the AIADMK two leaves symbol till further notice. With Sasikala in jail, her nephew TTV Dhanakaran became the party's Deputy General Secretary and the de facto supreme of the ruling AIADMK faction. After months of back and forth, the effort to unite the warring faction takes a new turn when in August 2017, Chief Minister EPS orders a judicial probe into Jayalalitha's death, a long-standing demand of OPS. On 21st of August, the factions within the AIADMK merge. Chief Minister E. Palaniswamy makes O. Paneerselvam his Deputy Chief Minister. By September, the now combined EPS-OPS-led AIADMK removed both Sasikala and her nephew TTV Dhanakaran from all party posts.
Okay, so the key question now is how will the AIADMK likely react? And I want to put that question to TM Veeraraghav. What's your sense of how the AIADMK, given its internal wranglings, is likely to react to what they saw on the streets with Sasikala getting the kind of rapturous welcome that she did?
There was a time, Rahul, when MGR was AIADMK and AIADMK was MGR, then later Jayalalithaa was AIADMK and AIADMK was Jayalalithaa. Right now, there is no single one AIADMK. It's a mixture of several factions, and it doesn't stop with EPS and OPS. There are several leaders within who have kept quiet and have stuck together with the EPS-OPS faction because they just wanted the cart to keep running, the government to keep running. I think you need to take cognizance of the comment that Sasikala made, which she said, we will not allow the common foe to come back to power. I believe that there are different factions within the AIADMK, and the reaction to Sasikala will evolve slowly. EPS personally will not want Sasikala back into the party because it's a threat to his leadership, and his leadership is shaking the moment the government's term comes to an end. There will be several sections within the AIADMK which will want her back. There will be sections within the AIADMK which will want to keep her back, which will be close to EPS. We will have to see how this works out.
Kishore Swami, what's your sense of the reaction in the AIADMK? What Veeraraghav says is that we're likely to see, opposing factions in the AIADMK come together against a common enemy. How rattled is the AIADMK top leadership with the return of Chinnamma?
See, I agree with your third option, which is that Sasikala will wait till the elections are over for her to move her coins, because right now, the situation is too fluid, because the center completely backing. See, I think you would be aware that about 2 weeks ago, the Chief Minister had visited Delhi, and he actually was projecting that he had the backing of the BJP leadership. And as far as the alliance is concerned, the alliance is firm in Tamil Nadu. between the AIADMK and the BJP, and they are sorting out the issues with the other parties as well. So given these circumstances, whether the Chief Minister, who is able to so confidently talk, speak to the reporters just outside the PMO, stating that the question of Srimati Sasikala coming inside the party does not arise at all, says, speaks volumes. And I do agree with Priyamada when she says that she will not move, she will not have much to do before the elections. Maybe after the elections, yes, she has a say, because based on the results and based on how the AIADMK performs, the blame game, if at all the AIADMK outperforms, then the entire accolade will go to the Chief Minister. But if the AIADMK does not perform well, then of course, yes, the blame will rest on him as well, because he has been projected as a Chief Ministerial candidate by his own, Mr. OPS, who was considered to be a competitor. But he himself has come out and announced that he's going to be the Chief Ministerial candidate, and he has taken. And you can see that Mr. OPS has been silent when it comes to Srimati Sasikala. He has not spoken much. And Priyamada was right. His second son had tweeted that he was wanting her to take care of herself. So, having said all this, whether AIADMK, if you really go into the DNA of AIADMK, it is about the symbol. It is about the organizational machinery. Whoever has it has the party. And today, they have the power. The state, the government is with them. So, having said that...
Okay, we've had a very interesting conversation about the possibilities and what may happen, what may not happen now that Sasikala is back. Make no mistake, this is a big X factor. A lot of my colleagues and a lot of pundits in Tamil Nadu are thinking about the impact Rajnikant could have. That may end up being a damn squib in the end and not really much of a factor. But this will play a role, especially with Sasikala, with Jayalalitha's birth anniversary coming up. It'll be interesting to see, who's able to rally the Jaya legacy behind them. I want to thank T.M. Veeraraghav, Kishore Swami, Rajshekharan, Priyamvada and T.S. Sudhir for joining us on this broadcast. We will track Tamil Nadu elections because it's not just Bengal. At the India Today Group, we firmly believe that the state of Tamil Nadu will witness one of the most exciting elections this summer, and we'll track it as closely as we possibly can with the best reportage and analysis. I'm slipping into a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention to... Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.